wake up Tuesday morning knowing that I'm not going to go to sleep until Wednesday night. And when you do that 2 days in a week, I'm just too old.
So, when I remember you from here, you were pretty stoic behind Coach Gillespie. So
I was working for Coach.
Yeah. So does that
Stoic was the right approach with Coach,
So that
and
comes
still
with-
is. That's my guy. You're supposed to be stoic with Coach.
So that comes with head coaching. And I mean, were you just bottling that in then at that time?
Yeah, I think you just have a different role as an assistant. In some ways, the 2 years that I worked for Coach were arguably the best training ground I have received as an assistant relative to the coaching. But being excited and caring and wanting to help, I just think that's my nature.
Buzz, for lack of a better way to put it, turn the corner of sorts. With the way
I don't know. We're on such a slow path relative to improvement that I don't know that we've turned a corner, but in respect of our guys' effort and their care for one another, I do think we're making improvements in our execution level. And I don't know that it's been enough that we've turned a corner, but I think we're further down the road.
Do you do things to build that camaraderie, or does it have to come within the players and in the locker room?
Yeah, good question. The first thing that I would say to answer that is none of that will ever work unless the character of the people on the team are built on the right things. And that's why, as much as possible, not just publicly, but even privately, I talk to them about their parents because that's where it has to have begun. And as a parent, I want to learn how to be a better parent. Because there's no way you can go through the things that we've been through thus far unless your character is to some degree above reproach. And then I think that time always has some level of value. Time together, time doing the same things, time to understand it, time to comprehend it, time to see it, time to do it. And as time transpires, that's more and more reps with one another of, to some degree, doing the same thing. And so I think it has to happen away from me. I think it has to happen while I'm with them. But I think it can only happen if who they are is built on the right things.
How high of a level of maturity did Andre have already coming in to be able to take over the role that he's been given and do it to the level he's been able to do it?
It's one of the more unique stories. I think you can do research as time transpires. I love guys whose story says you're not supposed to make it. And I cheer for those guys, and I, for whatever reason, seem to always have near immediate connection with them and or their people. Because I think the language of people that have a unique story is always very similar. I think Dre's carrying a very heavy burden. I think in time, he'll end up being a good player. I don't think he's a good player yet, but partially one of the reasons why I think he'll be a good player is because of the burden he's having to carry to begin his college career at this level. And as I've said before, he can play the point, but he's not a point. And he's never backed up once. And similar to your question, one of the things that I've noticed within our team is our kids respect Dre because he's not scared to be coached. I've been relatively hard on Dre because I think being the quarterback is the hardest position. And then being the quarterback when you're not the quarterback is even harder. And doing it as a freshman is heavy. And I think our guys, some of those older guys, like the fact that he has never backed up. French has been phenomenal with him in that regard. Like otherworldly in regards to how French has coached Dre with French knowing that the more Dre does better, the less French plays. And Save has picked up on that since the Oregon State game. And it's, I guess to answer your question, Travis, from the very first time I met Dre, I just have enormous respect for his story. And I tell people this throughout my career: I'm the best cheerleader you can have. But if I'm not cheering for you, you probably shouldn't come play for us. But if I'm cheering for you, it won't ever change, because it means in my heart, I believe in who you are. And I think as a person, that's the greatest gift you can give anyone, is belief. And I believe in Dre. And I think we've got to get some other people to help him as his career unfolds. But I think he'll have a chance to be a good player.
What first caught your eye about him?
Yeah, it's a crazy story, and I want to be really careful in what I say publicly. The least amount of time required to sign a high major player with the most unique story you can possibly imagine. And the people that are in his sphere, I stand at the utmost attention for what they've done and how they've went about it, and they will end up being a part of my family the rest of their life. Really, really crazy story. Jamie was involved with it. I was involved with it. Long-time relationships on how it got us to Dre. And then once we got into Dre, it turned into Pandora's box, and I'm like, whoa, they're gonna write a book about this. And I don't want them to write the book about me at all, but I wanna be a part of the lessons that I'm gonna learn when they write that book, because it's like, man, even talking about it now, I'm trying to say it in the right words. It gets me excited.
Are there any extra challenges preparing for a team like Vanderbilt with a new head coach who really only has 14 games on the college level?
I love Coach. I've known Coach for a long time, and for whatever reason, he's always been really nice to me. I think he's a star. That's the first thing that I would say. And similar to Patrick Ewing, I don't necessarily know why, because I wasn't one, but why really good players are perceived as they won't be really good coaches. Patrick Ewing's doing an unbelievable job and should have been an NBA head coach. And I also believe the same to be true about Stack. I don't know that it's anything different. I think he's hired a really good staff with veteran coaches in this business. David Grace, his associate head coach, has been around forever. Number 24, I've known since he was young. He's one of the better players in our league. I think he's a first-round pick, an early entry first-round pick, and I've never been in the NBA, but within what I've studied, very good. 24 and 0, the combination of the two, I think they're the third leading scoring duo in the country. And then number 2, as a freshman, I talk about Dre. Number 2, as a freshman, and I haven't studied many teams, but in this league, the job he's doing as a point guard is off the charts. And relative to preparation, just because Coach has only been here this year, I don't think it's very unique. I think you can see a lot of NBA-esque type actions in what they run for 24. You can see his familiarity with that level, that league, but I don't think that the prep's any different.
Have you coached in that building before?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Coach Stallings and I are really close friends. The longtime coach at Vanderbilt. It is unique. I kind of like it because the officials don't know where I'm at. You know what I mean? You can stand on the sideline or the baseline. We're up 79-77. Dwight Bikes was a JUCO guard that played for us, who's played in the NBA several years. Really good player. They had to foul us. He didn't realize it, and he went to go shoot a layup. We didn't have to shoot the ball. And Bikes went to shoot it and missed it, and they ended up winning the game. We lost by 1. It was a home and home series with Coach, and I think we played them. We played at Vanderbilt to start, and then they returned the game. The next year, the big kid Festus, I think he was drafted by Golden State, just absolutely wore us out, and they beat us really bad from start to finish in Milwaukee. So I've only played there once, and that would have been 8 years ago.
Is Cassius been a redshirt, or is he still recovering from injury? Or
Yeah, I'll try to handle that better going forward. Travis, it goes back to what we've talked about in the past on that. So he went through individuals, went through all of boot camp. We had 4 days off after boot camp leading into what we call training camp, which is the first weekend of practice. We had 5 practices that weekend, our first 5 practices. The 5th practice was on Sunday at the high school. We were off on Monday. Tuesday morning was early bird, and he told Eddie Binion, our trainer, that his foot was hurting. Went to see the doctor, was in the boot for 3 weeks, and then came back gradually, individual workouts, bleeding into no contact in practice. And I think it was the 16th practice, he was released. And he had been in practice 15, and we were starting practice, and I could tell he wasn't going full speed. And I said, Cash, is your foot hurting? He said, no. And I've known Cash since he was a little boy. And I said, Cash, please abide by team rule number 1. And he goes, yes, sir, it is. I said, well, get out. Went back in the boot. So he never had a fracture. It was what smart people call a reaction, which means it's about to be a fracture. And I just, I never had peace that it was the right thing for his career. We were beginning to gain some traction after Texas game. Then we only had 1 week. Well, we played Texas on a Sunday, and then we didn't play again till the following Sunday, and then we didn't play again till the following Saturday. And in my mind, I didn't think like playing 1 game a week, we were going to be able to determine, can his foot handle that? And I think the timing of it was such that if he were going to redshirt and let's play him, and then if something went wrong, he could get the year back, it would have to have been by the Texas Southern game. And I didn't like the timing of the way our schedule was playing itself out of let's play him, and then he gets hurt against Arkansas, and he lost a year for what would have been 3 games, you know? So I've been, I handle all of that so slow. Anything with personnel, I handle slow. Hiring coaches slow, signing players slow, making decisions like this slow. I did it with KJ at Virginia Tech. I did it with Ahmed at Virginia Tech. I'm just slow on that stuff. And so I told him after Christmas that I'd made the decision he was going to redshirt, and he's following a different plan each day than what our players are. And he's been really good. I think this is I think we're into the 2nd full week of that now. And he's been great. He's a very good prospect who obviously has been around the game his whole life and will help us immediately and could for sure help us in the areas that we're struggling now. But I didn't think long-term that was fair to him or his family.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, I got you guys a quote card.